By the mid-1800s, child labor was introduced, factories sprung up, and children were sent to work. About 2 million children, as young as 5, were sent to work in factories, underground coal mines, the farm, selling newspaper on street corners, or sweeping chimneys. About 50% of the children worked under the age of 14. They worked about 12 to 15 hours a day, 50 to 70 hours a week, with no days off and little to no breaks. Most of the children came from poor families and were sent to the factories to earn money to help provide for their families. Children were paid significantly less than adults, which is why children were most likely to be higher than an adult. This caused unemployment for many adults and underpayment for young workers. Children often got injured working in factories, losing limbs, fingers, and experiencing death. They worked on high-powered machinery with little training, machines that were meant to be used by adults only. Not only did they get injured from factories, but they were beaten by their overseers if they made mistakes or if they disobeyed them. Orphans were brought into factories. They were able to sleep where they worked and given food and clothes in exchange. A memoir recounts witnessing a scene of horror. A girl named Mary Richards, who was thought remarkably pretty when she left the workhouse, and who was not quite 10 years of age, attended a drawing frame, below which, and about a foot from the floor, was a horizontal shaft by which the frames above were turned. It happened one evening, when her apron was caught by the shaft. In an instant, the poor girl was drawn by irresistible force and dashed on the floor. She uttered the most heart-rending shrieks. The factory overseer ran towards her, an agonized and helpless beholder of a scene of horror. He saw her whirled round and round with the shaft. He heard the bones of her arm, legs, thighs, etc., successively snapped asunder, crushed, seemingly to atoms, as the machinery whirled her round and drew tighter and tighter her body within the works. Her blood was scattered over the frame and streamed upon the floor. Her head appeared dashed to pieces at last. Her mangled body was jammed in so fast between the shafts and the floor that the water being low and the wheels off the gear, it stopped the main shaft. When she was extracted, every bone was found broken, her head dreadfully crushed. She was carried off quite lifeless. These types of situations occur daily due to children's clothes not fitting their bodies and being too young to work in the factories. The treatment of children were often cruel. The overseer would often beat the children if they did not work properly. One common punishment for being late or not working hard enough is they would be weighted. An overseer would tie a heavy weight to the children's neck and have them walk up and down the factory aisles for an hour so other children would take example. Boys would be dragged from their beds naked and sent to the factory so they wouldn't be late to work. Every year, about 22,000 people died in work-related accidents. Children were seen as valuable workers because they could fit into small spaces that adults cannot fit into. In coal mines, children were used to crawl into small spaces. They developed black lung and other health effects from working. Toxic fumes also posed dangers. Many children developed chronic lung problems due to inhaling toxic substances. Children who worked in the cotton factories went through harsh conditions, psychologically and physically. Accidents, abuse, inadequate food, and no breaks are to be caused for their health. Children examined by Dr. John Johnson Boutflower all looked skinny and pale. Also had respiration issues such as hoarseness of voice, wheezing, and difficulty breathing. Children who worked more than 14 hours a day had growth stunts due to the labor. Later on in life, these situations led children to have serious health in their future. Not until 1883 that factory laws were placed to protect children. It required compulsory schooling and cleanliness of the workplace. About 14 years later came the 10-Hour Act, which was only limiting work hours to 10 hours a day, worked by 13 to 18-year-olds. In 1876, a minimum age requirement was passed. Today, the United States and England have laws regulating child labor. These laws have protected young children from working in dangerous environments.